Good morning. We are live. Welcome to your morning motivation. Today, we are talking about my top 5 productivity hacks, things that I use every day to help keep me productive, keep me on top of the game. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get the monitoring up. All right. So, productivity. This is time management is what it really boils down to. What are the how do we take the limited time that we have and pack everything that we are being asked into that small amount of time, right? I remember many years ago saying to one of my mentors, God, I wish we could expand, like have 48 hours in a day. I need 48 hours to get everything done. And he goes, no, you would just fill that up too. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So, one of the biggest challenges for me has been time management, right? Is figuring out what to do, have done all of the to-do lists, and my to-do list starts looking more like Santa's list where it rolls down the right. It's just crazy. So how do we do that? How do we capture what we really need to do versus all of the noise? Okay. So let's jump into it. My number one time management hack: journaling, writing down in my morning. Here's what's important in my life. You start with purpose, right? And it seems counterintuitive that your number one time management isn't really about tasks, and that is on purpose. The number one thing for time management is getting clear on your purpose of why you're doing what you're doing and what is truly important for you. If you listened to yesterday's live or podcast, it's the power of no, setting boundaries. And how do you know what to say no to, right? You know your purpose, you know your why. Why am I doing? What do I hope to accomplish from this day at a high level, right? That's where the real magic happens, is knowing, what to say yes and what to say. It's either a hell yes or it's a no. So what do I say yes to? What do I say no to? You only know that when you have a clear purpose. So, number one hack is journal. Figure out what is important to me today. What is my primary focus? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Now, hack number two, which ties directly into that, is the one thing. There's a book called The One Thing that I highly recommend. Um, but it really boils down to the one thing question, and we'll see if I can remember it out of memory. What's the one thing that I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary, right? And that a lot of times that's what goes into my journal after I've done my purpose. What's the one thing? What's the big domino, right? There's lots of things that we have to get done, right? Our to-do lists are super full. But what's the one thing? And the thought experiment there is, what's the one thing that I can do that if I do that, it's going to make everything else in my day either easier or I don't need to do it, right? In systems, when I'm coaching people, I talk about what are the systems you can put in place that if we do that, if we automate this, or if we systematize this process, it makes everything else in life easier, or you don't need to do it, right? That's where the real power comes in for planning our day, is what's the one thing that I need to be working on, and then do that first, right? I think, what is it, Brian Tracy calls it, eating the frog. It's like, if you have to eat a frog, you don't want to sit there and stare at it too long. Just get it over with, right? What's the one thing, and do that. All right. So that's number 2. Number 3, 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, right? If you haven't heard this, this is that 80% of basically 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. So what are those? Again, kind of comes back to that one thing rule. You got your one thing. What are the other things that's going to give you the most result for the effort forward, right? Look at that. How do I focus on the things that are most impactful right away? Okay. And whenever I have a task to do, the first question is, does this align with my purpose? Does this align with rule number 1, right? And then is this the most impactful thing that I need to be doing next? Okay. Number 3 is the Eisenhower Matrix. I had always thought of this as part of, like Stephen Covey talks about it, a similar thing in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But I found the Eisenhower Matrix, I think, was the originator of it. So you have a grid, right, of important. One axis is importance, the other axis is urgency, right? If it's important and urgent, that's a fire that you got to deal with it right now. You do it now, right? If it's important but not urgent, you schedule it. You put time down. This is something that's important. I'm going to schedule time. I make appointments with myself to do important things, right? And I block that time, at least half an hour, to work on that important thing that's not urgent. I don't have to deal with it right this second, but I don't want to let it pass, right? So if something is urgent, but it's not important, delegate it. Who can help you deal with that so you don't have to do it yourself? Right? That's that's it's good management of your time, right? And then lastly, if it's not important and not urgent, don't do it. Drop it. Let it go, right? There's so many times we do things that are just not necessary, right? And I can't tell you how much of our lives we lose to things that are unimportant and unnecessary. So don't do that. Let it go. And then lastly, the last of my 5 hacks is the Pomodoro Technique. And I've talked about this a number of times. I have a little timer right here, for this. So those important but not urgent things that we scheduled, now it's time to get them done. We've blocked out a 30-minute block for us to work, or an hour for us to work. Now it's time to work as efficiently as possible. And the idea behind this is you get a timer, you set 25 minutes, and you work solely focus. You turn off all of the alerts, all of the email dings, close all the programs except for what you're working on, and you work on that for 25 minutes. And when the 25 minutes is up, you get up and you take a 5-minute break, 30 minutes, right? And that focus, it's amazing how much you can get done in a truly focused 25-minute window. You have an hour, you do 2, right? Um, if you if you're in the wonderful position of not having meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, right? Do, schedule Pomodoros. I think it's 4 or 5. Let me see, let me remember. Yeah, it's 4 or 5, 4 or 5 pomodoros in a row, and then you take like a 30-minute break, right? So the idea is to give your mind a time to relax, and what you'll find is when you're working on something, especially a really challenging thing, you do the 25 minutes, you're focused, and especially if you're having a hard time during that 5-minute break, I like to get up and go outside and walk, or go do something completely unrelated to work. When you come back, you will have that aha moment, and it helps clear things out. It clears obstacles. All right. So those are my top 5 productivity hacks. So it's journaling. And by the way, for journaling, I use the bullet journal method. Absolutely the way to go. So journaling. What is the one thing? What's your 80/20? What are the most important things? The Eisenhower Matrix. If it's important and urgent, do it now. If it's important, not urgent, schedule it. If it's urgent but not important, you delegate it. And if it's not important, not urgent, get rid of it. Right. And then the Pomodoro Technique, work in 30-minute blocks. Take 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. Done. Okay. Now, so one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I've been talking about my new roundtable program that I am working on. Well, I'm going to be doing a deep dive training on all of these and more that are going to be available in that program. So if you like this, you want to go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, because I'm going to be going deep on these kinds of things, and more around life balance and that. So definitely you don't want to miss out on this. All right. That's my shameless plug for the day. This live brought to you by Third Power Performance, helping you live a life of excellence. I just came up with that. All right. All right, everybody. Well, I'm glad that you joined in today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you got something out of this. If you did, please put a note in the chat. Send me a message, and definitely go to the website. It's been scrolling down here for the whole time. Go to thirdpowerperformance.com, join the newsletter, find out when the roundtable is going to be launching for founding members. Founding members get special stuff. Just saying. And I will talk to you soon. Keep living your life to the third power. Have a great day. I will talk to you tomorrow.